a previous podcast interview that I listened to, you mentioned that when you were made partner, it was very important that you had a business owner mindset. What do you mean by that for our listeners? What is a business owner mindset?
So in that case, I mean, I functionally was a business owner because I had equity, but it's around value creation. Now that may sound like a couple of buzzwords, but I'm not just doing my job, serving clients, doing good work. Of course, I hope I was, but it's actually how am I increasing the value of the organization by doing what I am? So when you're admitted to a partner in any organization, and I did a lot of partner interviews, one of the questions is about how you adding something to the partnership, not just being, if you like, another number on the partnership or adding cost. Mm-hmm. So the mindset is, am I bringing in new clients? Am I delivering different services? Am I monetizing it in a different way? As opposed to just being another person on the factory line. That's the difference for me.
Yeah. And now you've taken that into your own business when you started it. How do you think that helped you? Like, give us a specific example of how having that mindset helped you when you started your own business.
I think it helps to have a healthy degree of humility because moving from director to partner, you're still senior in an organization, and the most effective partners I've seen is, okay, I'm not starting from scratch, but I've got to prove myself to my clients that I'm worth it now, as opposed to a sense of entitlement. I'm a partner here, or now I'm a coach. I deserve it. That is unhelpful. So the specific example would be where I had to, when a client asked some simple questions like, what do you do and what value are you going to give to me? I had to recreate a pitch at a level that's much more personal than before. It's me. In that case, it's me. It's not a team. It's not a brand. It's not an organization. It's like, and if I win and if I lose that mandate, there's no one else. Yeah. And so I think the mindset is a degree of hunger, a large degree of clarity. This is what I will do for you, and this is the benefits I think I will see. And then also recognizing that, if you're going to be a business owner, there's going to be some risk to it. You're going to have some you win and some lose. And I think some people who struggle having not been in I'll use the term sales, if I may, a sales environment. I know that's a dreadful word.
Sales.
Yeah, not allowed. Dreadful word. Sales environment. The idea of having, a pipeline that's not particularly healthy or losing, it becomes deeply personal very quickly because they haven't faced it before. Whereas I think now I've had some clients who I haven't worked with, they haven't chosen me or vice versa. And as long as that's not all the time, I think you say, right, you have to then go through a process of, okay, was it fit? Was it how I performed? You go through that self-review in a way that's quite structured. And I think that owner mindset is, I'm trying to create value for them, trying to create value for me. Have I got the right pitch in place? Am I listening effectively? And am I reviewing what I'm doing afterwards?
Yeah. I think it's really important that you are able to separate that value that you create as a separate entity than you yourself and your value as a person, right? I see so many business coaches, let's call them, or whatever, giving the advice of, well, you should charge what you are worth and you should know your worth. And I'm like, well, it's not really about your worth. I understand where they're coming from, that you have some years of experience behind you and you've done a qualification and you have a certain track record of helping clients and so on. But that is not your worth as an individual. That is the worth of the value that you can offer, in my opinion. Because then if you get rejected, they did not reject you as David or Alisa. They just rejected that value that you wanted to deliver because maybe it wasn't for them, right? It wasn't what they wanted at that point in time, or they could not afford it. But that doesn't mean that you are now a bad coach or a bad professional,
yes,
or that you are worth less than someone who maybe charges more, right? No, it's the value that they're offering that is worth more in the eyes of that client, because there's very little intrinsic value, right? if I have this coaching offer that I am selling to both a CEO and to a recent graduate, they're going to value it in a very different way.
Yes, I agree.
And probably the CEO will value it more because it's going to bring a lot more to their business and revenue and to their own skills as a CEO, whilst as the graduate maybe it just goes over their head because they have nothing to do with it at this stage in their career, right? So the graduate will pay pennies for it or nothing. They don't want it. And then the CEO will pay a lot more, but the offer is the same and it has nothing to do with my value, right? I can only bring value to something which then takes a form of its own, and that's what people accept or reject, not necessarily me as a person.
I agree. And so I think when you've had a request for some form of coaching, or you potentially some coaches approach people, you really have to invest the time in answering those questions about value to them. I think many coaches are quite self-absorbed, and also think about not only value but differentiation. And the competition is not only from other coaches, but it's also internally and the individual. I remember there was one mandate at the beginning when I moved across to this portfolio, which I didn't get, and I was I still wonder about it. But I looked at the senior exec's profile, and it was quite similar to mine. And yeah, I know who he went with in the end. And that coach, candidly, the CV was not as strong, and they told me separately it wasn't as strong. But that coach had a different profile, so brought a different perspective on business life and different approaches. And so for them, it was a different experience, whereas we probably would have butted up against each other.
Yeah, it's all about detaching yourself from the outcome and looking with a clear mind and saying, okay, so this proposal was not accepted. Why do I think that was? And do I want to continue to approach clients that have this profile in the future or not? And is there anything that I need to change? And,
Indeed.
if you can get feedback, that's even better. But yeah, I am so against knowing your worth and charging your worth, because I think it just devalues people. And especially for new coaches, it makes them scared and it makes them charge a lot less than what they could, because they have imposter syndrome at the beginning, and because they think, well, what I'm offering here is not so valuable. If they can detach themselves, then it's not about them and how much experience
Indeed.
they have,
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
and so on. So for someone who has been an employee for a very long time, and they now want to cultivate this business owner mindset that we've been talking about for the last few minutes, what advice do you have for them?
I would look for adjacent or immediate opportunities in your role that are more entrepreneurial. So look around you, look at the projects that are around you, potentially roles that are nearby, which have either more financial responsibility or perhaps something around the growth agenda of the organization. But they're not, and I'm caricaturing somebody as a manager, but just for an example, but where you are actually encouraged to create value, to create something new, and put your hand up. It may only be 20% of your time. It may not be a full-time switch, but again, it's part of that experimentation mindset, and in a relatively safe space. Same organization, the people, try it out. And I think you'll soon realize whether you think, absolutely, I love the white space I can move into. I love the exploration that I can do in terms of whether it's searching for new customers, developing new products, creating new sources of value. Or you might say, actually, that's not me. But try something around you as a starting point in a safer environment, and then go from there.
That's sound advice. Like, do it before you make the jump, right? Do it in your role right now and see if it's for you. Test the waters. Maybe sometimes you can go part-time in your role.
Some people go part-time. I mean, that's quite a big move. Again, you have to think what that means, not only financially, but in terms of your career. But I think there are a number of routes. So part-time is one, experiment is another, potentially doing a secondment elsewhere to another territory or to another market. You could be shadowing people. I've seen people shadow people who have more entrepreneurial roles and say, when you're in these meetings, I'd like to join you to sort of learn from you.
Yeah.
Just try. The point is, try something, do something. I've seen some people not do that experimentation, just say, I just want to change. I've had enough. I want to change. And it does succeed for some people, not that many. It comes back to how big is your motivation? How quickly do you want to move? And in a way, how bad or toxic is the environment you're in? Those considerations frame, I think, the scale of change you're up for and the pace of it.
Yeah.
But in most cases, leaping to something radically new is a bad move in most cases, especially if you've been long term, because you will be, as I said, institutionalized to a degree and you won't realize it.
Yeah.
You know, the language you use, the pace you work at. I mean, if you're in big corporates, the number of meetings you have to have before the meeting, whereas you're an entrepreneur, and about you're making micro decisions every day. And that's one of the things I've absolutely loved. I haven't had to ask permission from somebody to spend this amount of money or do this. There's no committee to go to. I miss some of my colleagues, of course, but now you're making micro decisions. That's quite a shift. I don't know about you. That's quite a shift of day in, day out. Do I do it myself? Does somebody else do it for me? Do I focus here? Do I focus there? Whereas if you're in a company, there is, whether you realize it or not, there is a machine that you're part of. And the machine will carry on operating without you. So you need to extradite yourself carefully.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned, some of the things that people need to be aware of when they are removed from that machine, which, by the way, it will function perfectly without
Perfectly
us.
well.
And it's maybe a kind of like a hit of the ego when you go away and you're thinking, oh, I've done such a great job, and now who's going to do that job for me? And 2 years later, 5 years later, the company's still there and it's going fine.
Yeah, they didn't miss a beat. They may admire what you did at the time, but if it's a high or good performing organisation, there'll be plenty of other people champing at the bit to go into your role. And I think that the one thing I'd add to a couple of your questions, Alisa, is around. I think you have to be kind to yourself in these transitions. And I say that with real sincerity. As much as you can plan it, structure it, learn from others, there'll be bumpy times where, and I had it, where I thought, so I've lost my title. When people say, what do you do, David? And I had my pitch and I was a senior partner in a big organization. You lose it. Yeah, well, and there will be people who lose you or you lose them as a result, because their association is as much to the organization, if not more, than to you. And that goes for colleagues, network, people in your network, and indeed clients. So there'll be gulp moments. I remember having a few. I thought, what have I done? Yes, I know what I'm trying to do, but the identity I had is going or gone. And what I'm creating is very nebulous. And that moment is quite a delicate moment where you have to go back to your beliefs, keep making small steps forward, and hopefully having a group of people around you, doesn't have to be many, who just believe in you. Say, keep going, you're a good person. But anybody who says that they can plan this perfectly in a very clear project plan and every step is very predictable and so on, I mean, they just, come on, they're probably smoking something. It's not true. There will be moments where you go, what have I done? Should I keep doing it? And being comfortable with the discomfort.